be recognized. Are there Bravo Award winners here? Please stand. Thank you. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker this evening. Victor Melendez is a graphic designer, illustrator, and art director based in Seattle, Washington. His work at Starbucks Creative Studio, where he has created award-winning packaging, in-store promotions, merchandise, and advertising for more than 23,000 stores worldwide. In addition to Starbucks, Melendez has a prolific career as a freelancer working with clients that include REI, T-Mobile, Crayola, Sub Pop, 21st Amendment, Hallmark, Sasquatch, Music Festival, and many more. Melendez's multicultural upbringing gives him a unique approach to craft and style. This distinctive quality has given him the opportunity to not only produce captivating illustrative work, but also explore different techniques, such as printmaking, silk screening, engraving, and mural painting. Please help me welcome Victor Melendez.
Wow, I'm so nervous after all these people speaking great content. Now, hopefully I don't let you down. So I'm here to tell you a little bit about my life, who am I, and hopefully you can learn what I'm all about and what I stand for. Thank you everyone for having me. Like they said, my name is Victor, and I'm a graphic designer and illustrator working out of Seattle. I work at Starbucks. It's a coffee shop in Seattle. But I do that during the day, and during the night I do lots of freelance, more than I should, according to my wife. So I was born in Mexico. I'm Mexican, and I was, yes, are there any Mexicans here? I didn't turn it on, okay. I was born and raised in what I consider one of the most eclectic, beautiful cities in the world, Mexico City. But, yes, Chilangos. But my story evolves around 3 places in Mexico. Like I said, I was born in Mexico City, but my family comes from Oaxaca, and And then my family moved to Veracruz during the oil industry boom many years ago. Being born in Mexico gave me the opportunity to be around many things that don't happen in any other parts of the world. We have culture, food, we got colors, dialects, dances from many states. And I'm gonna show you a little bit about what influenced me growing up, and then how I apply that to the work that I do right now. Like I said, I was born in Mexico City, but my family moved to Minatitlan, Veracruz, because of the refinery that was in Minatitlan, and a lot of people from Oaxaca moved to there. So Mina, as we call it, is a mixture of Oaxaca and Veracruz cultures. I was exposed to both cultures. On the right, you can see there's a traditional dress from Veracruz, and on the left is a traditional dress from Oaxaca. That's actually my grandma, my cousin, and my aunt. My grandma was, she was born in Oaxaca, and when she moved to Veracruz, and she didn't speak a word of Spanish. She learned Spanish later on in her life, and like 3 out of her 4 words are curse words. I never, that's where I learned most of my curse words, not with my friends, but with my grandma. Mexico is such a colorful place that every time someone asks me, what are your influences, I list like 20 or 30 of them. But these are some of the ones that I consider to be the ones that influence me more. You can see it's these are traditional dresses that you use for dance in many states. The ones that you see are tigers from Guerrero, and you can see some of those later in the work that I'm going to show you. These are masks. I'm heavily influenced by masks, the color, the texture, the handcraft that goes into making each one of them. And I'm going to talk about a little bit more about handcraft and how that influenced also my work. I was influenced by the three big ones, the big three muralists that I saw all around Mexico City, mostly Mexico City, because the big murals are over there: Diego Rivera, Orozco, and Siqueiros. Some other influences that I had were wood carvers, printmakers. I really love the work that they do when they using only one color, black and white, and it's amazing when you see it up close. I've also had influence by sign painting, traditional. If you can see all of these guys all over in the streets, and it's a mixture of kitsch and fantasy and things that I don't think make sense, but when you see it, it attracts you. Like I mean, the three little pigs, like cooking the butcher, and the literal translation of head tacos. I mean, and of course, lucha libre. I was ever since 5 years old. I wouldn't miss a match. Every Sunday I would watch these guys' movies. They were my superheroes in real life because these guys actually existed, and they walk around the city with this masks, and like it's normal. But the movie posters are some of the most amazing things that I've seen also up close. They're hand painted. They have lots of colors. And the variety of movies that they do, it's crazy. They fight against vampires, Martians, Dracula, and even against each other. And I mean, that's me. I became one of them. I gotta say, this is Christmas Day. And one of the most exciting days of my life, I got that as a present, immediately took my clothes off and ran around the house. I wish I still had it. Although I haven't taken my shirt off in public in like 20 years. So once I stayed in Mina for Minatitlan in Veracruz all the way to high school. When I reached high school, I moved back to Mexico City because it's a big city and you get better education. So from Mina, I moved to Ciudad de Mexico, back day DF. I still call it DF, but Mexico City was just the biggest city you've ever seen. It's 22, 23 million people, and it's dense. You can see past a few feet because the amount of people that live in there. I was a very bad student. I started high school in Mexico, and during that time, you only had two chances of getting into school, and you apply. You have this big test, and all the kids around my age, they applied, and then you either go into the UNAM, the university, Polytechnic, the Poly, and one is focused on humanities, the other one's focused on engineering. Somehow, I managed to get into engineering, and I started high school in an engineering program, which is, it's crazy thinking back then. I have no skill whatsoever doing engineering, but somehow I managed to do it. I started engineering school, and during my my last year of high school, I managed to get an internship at a museum where a friend worked, And I basically lied because my major was in computer programming, and I said that they had computers at the graphic design department at the museum. And they believed me, and they approved it. And I spent like 6 months just doing anything but computer programming. I was obsessed with computers, but we were doing graphic design, and that's where my love for graphic design started, at this museum with my friend. And that was also one of the first instances where I talked myself into an unknown situation and forced myself to do something out of my comfort zone. And that's where I came up with my motto, and that is, say yes, and then figure out later how you're gonna come up with a solution. Or there's many sayings like that, but that's the one I came up with. Once I managed to barely finish high school with a mediocre GPA, the only option I had was to continue with an education in engineering, because the university was connected to the high school. So basically, I had no option. My GPA was so low that they wouldn't take me in any other schools, and I continued to torture myself in going into engineering. I was doing calculus and chemistry and physics, and it was way out of my league. I don't know how I lasted there for that long. That was my commute. It was 2 hours away from my house. So on the way over there, it's 2 hours, on the way back, and you had to go on the subway, take a bus, and it was crazy. And I lived like that for 2 years. And at that time, the internet happened. So I got a computer, and I started the online chat rooms back then were the rage. You could connect to someone on the other side of the world and talk to them through your computer, and that was amazing. And so I spent many nights talking to people online, and obviously not doing well in school. And that was my demise. I was flunking it so bad that I wasn't even going to be able to continue for that much long. And then the opportunity came to move here. That was another example of forcing myself to do something that I wasn't ready for, but I went with it. I moved here because I often hear that things happen or stories happen because of a woman, and that was exactly the case. In one of those chat rooms, I met this girl, and she was trying to practice her Spanish. Because I said, yeah, we have similar tastes in music, whatever. We met online, and she went on vacation over there to Mexico, showed her around the pyramids. I came here on vacation, and we went back and forth like a couple of times. And one of those times I came here to the U.S., and I said, screw it, I'm going to stay. So I came here with a student visa. And by the way, I'm married to this person, so later on, it all worked out at the end. But I moved to the beautiful state of Washington. Some say the most beautiful state in the nation. I don't know. I will say the second, next to Oregon. But again, this was another example of me trying something new without knowing what was going to happen to me. I moved here. The only person I knew was my girlfriend, Crystal, and later my wife. And I moved here. I didn't speak English. I didn't have an education. I disappointed my mom, my dad. And it was very, very chaotic, and I made him very, very nervous. And I was nervous myself. I said, how am I going to survive? I have no skills. I was young and thin back then, but other than that, I didn't have any skills. So I said, I got to do something. So I, we didn't live in the city. We lived in Oakville, Washington. It's like an hour away from here. And the town is like 300 people, and I think I was the only Mexican there. But somehow I decided I gotta do something. I gotta plan and moving forward. So since I had no skill, I had nothing to go of. I tried to get a job, but obviously I didn't have anything. So I came up with another scam, and that was I told my wife, hey, you should get a job, and I work for you. So we weren't married back then, but she got a job as a delivering paper. That's not me, but I used to deliver the paper, and not on a bike like that. I used to deliver with class in a 1991 Ford Tempo. But I got to tell you, this was a great experience for me because we would go get the paper at night, and then we'd load the car. I'll drop her off for her to go to sleep, and I'll do the whole route. And it was at night. It was like 3, 4, 5 in the morning, and I was just listening to music. And at the end, I used to keep a copy of the paper for me, and that's what encouraged me a little bit more to try to learn English. And also I was forced to learn English because I didn't have anyone to talk to. So, reading the paper and nobody to talk to, and of course, watching Seinfeld. This is my teacher. I learned more about Seinfeld, about American culture, dialect, and sayings that I've ever learned during my couple of classes I took in Mexico. So after I learned a little bit of English, I could communicate a little bit more. And after I got married, and I finally got a permit to work, and my first job was as a buffet runner. That's not me either. But I work at a casino. I used to change the food and cut prime rib, serve lobster, and just run all day, switching food. But I stayed at the casino for a while, and after this, I moved up to line cook. I was a line cook at the Chinese restaurant at the casino. And this is crazy because my English was bad, but their English was even worse. I don't even know how to communicate, but that's not me either. But I couldn't find any pictures back in the day, so I just pulled them off from the internet, just to illustrate. But the communication amongst us was crazy. I don't even know how we did it. But because of that, I make really good fried rice. So as time went by, I learned a little bit more of English, and I managed to move up. I got out of the kitchen. I became an attendant into video game machines, and I was able to talk to customers, pay jackpots, and just a little more interaction with English-speaking people helped me a great deal. And then at a time, I also started community college in Grand River Community College, and so I was going to school in the morning, and I also got another job at the community college. Going to school in the morning, my second job, my first job, and then going to the casino at night to do my video gaming attendant. After this, I said I can't do this anymore, so I got a better job as a UPS. Guess who's that? That's not me. I was loading boxes. That was a great job. It's like I was in better shape of my life, the best shape of my life. And soon after, I became a supervisor, and that went away. But at the time, after taking some classes at the community college, one of my teachers told me, hey, she saw something on me, and she said, hey, you should go apply for a real college. So there was an event at Seattle. Wait. Those were her words, not mine. I consider that a real education, too. So when there's this thing called the National Portfolio Day, when students go and show their work, and industry professionals review their work, and they critique it, and they advise them on what to do and what do they need in order to get into college. And several schools were there. And one of the schools was, oh, by the way, by the time I was living in Auburn, and then we moved on the outskirts of Seattle. And one of the schools that I went to was Cornish College of the Arts. I applied, and one of the teachers there that saw my portfolio said, hey, you will be great in this program. So I did, and they accepted me, and I got a scholarship, and I was able to, again, cheat the system by transferring a bunch of credits from Mexico and a bunch of credits from community college, and skip 1 year. Well, they said, there was one class that I needed to take, but I lied and said, oh, I already know that program, and I took it back in the day, whatever. And I was able to skip 1 year and save tons of money. So I'm not saying you have to lie, but you have to be creative. And that's another thing. It forced me to learn that piece of software later on in life, and because I had already said that I knew it, so I had to show it. So once I was in my senior year in school at Cornish, that's the main campus. The teacher that advised me, that was my mentor, she said, hey, I know this guy, George Estrada. He lives here in Portland, by the way. You should send him an email, and maybe he can get you an internship at Starbucks, because at the time they were offering internships. So I did, and they invited me, and I got an internship, and that was like one of the best days of my life. I was a super fan of their design group, and I was able to get the internship while still keeping the job at UPS. These 3 years during school, I didn't sleep at all. I was going to school, going to work, homework. It was like 2-3 hours of sleep a night, but at the end of it, I think it was worth it. I'll bring it often with my wife when we're fighting. It's, hey, I didn't sleep for like 3 years. Anyway, hopefully she doesn't get word of this. So after I work I managed to get the internship at Starbucks. Like I said, this is a coffee shop in Seattle. I started, they gave me it was a great experience because they let me work on actual products that you will see in the stores, and it gave me real skills, real experience in the professional world that I could never thought of. And so with that, I'm going to show you, this is where I work, 7th floor. I'm going to show you some of the Starbucks work that I do. Hopefully I didn't bore you with my life, but this is a good part where you get to see what I do, what I'm all about, and how those early images influence the work that I do right now. This was an anniversary blend. I didn't do this, but I guess this is coming a common theme, huh? But I gotta tell you how the handcrafted nature of the things that I saw when I was a kid influenced me in the work that I'm gonna show you. So this is anniversary blend, and this is a coffee that was designed to commemorate the anniversary of Starbucks, hence the name. Very creative. So when it reached 20 years, the anniversary of Anniversary Blend, I was given the task to redesign it and give it a lift to the most iconic bag in the lineup. So this is a little bit of my process. What I do is usually do sketches. I try to do everything by hand. So here, what you're seeing here is just thumbnails and composition, very rough, nothing refined. Just to see how the flow, how the illustration is going to look, the type. And this is what I did. I started doing sketches by hand, and then I did watercolor. and separate pieces of paper, and then I brought everything on the computer, and then I created the final illustration, which is the one that you can see. It came out like 2015, I think. It was around for a couple of years, and it was very well received. I think that that's one of the things that you notice when something works and when people connect with the work that you do. It shows that this packaging sold out in a few weeks, and it was very, very successful. And I feel when I say very, very successful, I feel like very, very successful. Anyway, this is the new one that just came out yesterday. You can purchase that at your local Starbucks, your local coffee shop. And this is another instance of handcrafts used in my work. The promo team asked me to do some illustrations for their ad campaign, and I said yes. And this is a new technique. Again, this is one of the things that I love doing our work. When I present work, I often don't know how I'm going to execute the final illustration, but somehow it's a trick that I apply. Like, I've been applying it through my life and pitching the work, and then if they approve it, I'll figure it out later and see how I'm going to execute it. And this was one of the instances. They said, oh, can you do some fall illustrations? I said, yes. And this was the first time I've used ink, and I did a few of them, and this is how it ended up in stores. And this was, oh, you're clapping for my cup? Much more beautiful than the red cup. Remember the red cup? I came up with that. Just kind of. And this is some of the posters that were around the store. In-store posters, banners, and this was another great successful campaign that everyone grabbed it connected with people, and I think that's one of the things that makes me happy the most, when I see people interacting with the work that I do, and experiencing some of the things that I love doing. So back when I was an intern, one of the projects that came up was Chiapas, the coffee bag, one of the first bags that they did from coffee from Mexico, and I jumped on it right. Every time there's a Mexico project, I said, I'll do it. They often offer it to me because I'm the only Mexican in there. But so when this one came up, I was like a year in, and I was super excited. And throughout the years, the second iteration of this coffee was this one. I did a Chiapas dress, and now the brand new one that just came out, I also did, which is this one. And this one is a core coffee in Mexico. Actually, whenever you go to Mexico, you can get this coffee. Woo, Chiapas! I did so many versions of this coffee, and this was the final. The process is very long. It's about 6 months to do a coffee bag, but for this one, I did like 5, 6, 7 options, and finally, it was late at night, and I had a presentation the next morning. I did this one in like 10 minutes. I think it always happens, like after you work a bunch, and then you're like, I'm gonna do something really loose. I might have been under the influence. And it wasn't alcohol. Hand on type. This is another one. This one came out last year, and you can see some of the influence that I have from the wood carvers in this one. I was very excited to do some in that style. And now this project that I'm going to show is the one that I really like. It just came out yesterday. It's a tumbler that it came out in Mexico, and it's for the 15 years of Starbucks Mexico. I even got to do an interview in Spanish. Now that I've been here for so long, my Spanish is Awful. But I did it, and I love doing stuff for Mexico. I also did a card, and you can see the style that I used is obviously influenced by some of the dresses that I saw my grandma wear, and the hand embroidered dresses that you see all around. I love hand done typography. That's some of the things. Obviously, I got influence from the sign paint that I saw on the street. But aside from Starbucks, I also do other work. I do lots of gig posters and lots of art prints. This is some of for an exhibition called Art Crank that goes around the world and shows bike posters, and some of the proceeds go to local charities. Gig posters, like I said, these are for two of my favorite bands in Mexico. I have a friend that makes the posters for me in Mexico, and the one on the right is Café Tacuba, my favorite band, and the left is Porter. Café Tacuba. And these are some of my other gig posters. You can see I try to stay with a hand-done style, although I do most of them in the computer. I start with pencil and ink and scan, and then put it together in the computer. This is one of the beer cans that I did for 21st Amendment. This is a Mexican lager, excuse me. And it was done here in Bend, an agency in Bend, Oregon. And an old friend that worked with me at Starbucks, they said they wanted to do a Mexican lager, and they thought of me. I said, I'll take it. They wanted to do a sombrero, but I said, let's just do the serape. This is a poster I did for Sub Pop Records. I'm gonna go a little fast because I think we're going over. Some logos I did for. I try to do a lot of work for small companies within my community, try to help them out. The one on the left is for my uncle. He has a Son Jarocho band, and he's from Veracruz, so I was really excited to do that. I grew up with that music, and I love it. More gig posters. The one on the left is actually a cover for a magazine in Mexico that focuses on horror, and they were celebrating the Day of the Dead, my favorite holiday. And now we go into more recent projects. Some of the ones that I'm really excited about have nothing to do with Starbucks, but like I said, I love working with local companies, and even more so when those companies try to give back to the community. This one is a project that I recently with a company called Has Heart that travels around the world and pairs designers with wounded veterans, and the designer tells the story of the veteran, and they create a T-shirt and cards, and they sell them, and all the proceeds go to a charity of that the veteran chooses. I love doing public art. Like I said, I was influenced by muralists, so I enjoy showing my work in public, even though it gets tagged over. But this one was a really fun project. It's around South Lake Union area in Seattle. There was a restaurant called Casco Antiguo, and they told me to do some postcards for them. So I did this one, and they also have a really cool patio in the back. And I said, it would be cool if you had a mural there. So I convinced them to do a mural, and I reinterpret that character, and now it lives there, not for long. This is another mural that I recently did, like last week, actually. And this is a huge, huge mural that was done by for a company, an organization called Urban Artworks that focuses on doing artwork, public art with youth. So I designed it, and a bunch of kids painted it. It was a great, great experience seeing my work executed by other people. That's how it looks big. And since I was doing this, I convinced people at work to let me do murals for Starbucks too. So this is one of my most recent murals. And this one is in White Center, a neighborhood near my house. that it's an opportunity cafe where it partners with the YMCA and organizations around the community to provide training, and you can have meetings, and the cafe just provides all the space for it. And with that, I'm going to leave you with my PSA. The partial tacos are not real tacos. I do have one more thing. I kind of wrote it down here. I guess the moral of the story is I wasn't that good in school, but I was still found a way to make it. I quit school. I moved to another country. I learned the language, and I started a family. I got many, many jobs, and I was able to do what I feel passionate about, which is drawing, making cool things, and make people enjoy them. And I want people to experience a little bit of myself, my culture, and maybe appreciate and find out more about people like me, about immigrants and people of color. We have many things to offer. I guess especially with this administration, I think it's important for us to make that more evident. I am an immigrant. The majority of immigrants are good, hardworking people that come here to the U.S. just to make a better life for themselves and their family. These are, we're definitely not criminals. We're hardworking people, and we pay taxes. We send our kids to school, and we contribute to the community. So, if I hope you enjoy what I said tonight. You can keep up with me in social media and see about my rants. But I don't know. Hopefully, you feel a little bit inspired. Tell my story to someone you know. Maybe they feel inspired to do what they like through hard work and cheating the system. So with that, I'll leave you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor, for joining us. And thank you for sharing your story. It's quite inspiring. So tonight's program could not be possible without our generous supporters. So as I leave you all, I just wanted to say thank you to Prosper Portland and Wells Fargo for being our premier sponsors tonight, for Altria, Chase, the City of Portland, Comcast, Fred Meyer, Multnomah County, Port of Portland, Providence Health and Services, and Wyden and Kennedy. Thank you to all our media sponsors, El Hispanic News, Emma, and KUPN. And we want to thank all of our table sponsors who work here with us tonight. Your support directly goes towards our scholarship program. As we close, I would like to thank our chamber staff, Marianne Potter, Jonathan Colon, Brenda Dietrich, Carlos Moreno, Paulina Salgado, Ana Torres, Lisa Mujica, Carmina Rodriguez, Corey Ramirez, and Joel Gibbs. And thank you to all our wonderful volunteers this evening. If you feel moved, there are envelopes in the middle of your table, and it would be great if you could support the work that we do and all of our scholars and leaders and business entrepreneurs that we support. I'd like to leave you, before we go, with one last quote from our powerful Latina civil rights activist, Dolores Huerta. We can't let people drive wedges between us because we're only one human race. That concludes the program for this evening, and thank you for joining us. As you leave, please pick up any items, and we have a wonderful giveaway from Portland Love Bottles for you to take this evening. Thank you for your support, and thank you again for joining us.